some guys messed their pants. But we'll grade the film. Mental errors. We had some guys just crap their pants today in pads. Yeah.
No messing in our pants. Yes. Welcome back to a Few Extra Bucs, your Buccaneer podcast here on pewterpirates.com. Boy, football has arrived. It's training camp, and Bruce Arians is refreshing. Some great comments from him. Very candid comments. We'll talk about him in just a second. Let me bring in my partners, Justin Thomas. You cut that sound. Bruce Arians not holding back off the bat.
I love Bruce Arians. He's great, man. He's got the best lines.
And Roy Cummings, you have perfect attendance over the weekend at training camp. Can't wait to get your takes. But I don't know what Bruce Arians, I don't know what kind of success he's going to have this year, but I do know it's not going to be boring, partner.
No, it's not. And we got a good glimpse of it, over the weekend where he says what's on his mind. Now, look, I think he's going to massage some things at times, and when we see some things that we don't necessarily like, he's probably not going to just jump on it all the time, but. I think when he sees something that he doesn't like, he's going to come right out and tell you. And, man, the line about he started off nice, saying, well, some of the guys messed their pants a little bit, and then he came out right out and said it. Some of those offensive linemen just crapped their pants. You know what? I'll tell you what. The only bad thing about that is my guess is that, come the regular season or maybe even sooner, this team goes on the road. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see somebody show up at a Bucs game with some Pampers on a stick or something like that. Because that if it hasn't happened already, I can see that comment going viral, man. Because that's the goods right there.
Or some bootleg T-shirts outside Ray J with the diapers. I love the diaper image. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, offensive linemen in diapers or something like that. Because. Maybe adult diapers. Because let's face it, I mean, you don't hear coaches say that kind of stuff too much. At least we're not used to hearing that. Maybe it's time to get used to it. I won't have a hard time doing that, and I don't think the fans will either.
Well, Bruce Arians has the cachet. Lovey had a little cachet, but Dirk didn't, and Shiano didn't, and Lord knows Raheem didn't. And so he's got a little cachet, so he could say some of that stuff. But let's face it, there's been a lot of crapping of the pants in the last decade plus for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But so far, I know people have to tweet stuff, and I get it. You have to keep up. But I hate to get too carried away in training camp if a guy makes a great catch or a good throw. Or here's my one takeaway. You and I were practice last week, the first day, and Jameis Winston looked horrible. But I don't want to get too carried away. But the headline in the Tampa Bay Times the next day is that it was a nice start. I'm not sure how you spin that either. I mean, it's so early. I think my main takeaway in the first question here, Roy, is don't get too high or too low right now.
No, and don't get too high or too low one practice to the next. Look, I've been at this for a long time now, 20 plus years, watching training camp practices and trying to read things into them. You can't do it. We won't really know what this team is like until we're 3, maybe 4 games into the regular season. We're not going to know it at a training camp scrimmage. We're not going to know it by watching a preseason game, even for the dozen or so snaps that the first team is out there for. We're not going to know it by the full results of the preseason. We are not going to know what this team is really like until we get about 3-4 games into the regular season. And the reason I say that is, again, look at last year. They got off to a real nice start. It looked like things were going in the right direction, and then it didn't take long for things to just completely spiral downward. So don't get too worked up when you see, tweets or comments coming out of training camp workouts about how, Jameis Winston looked great today, or he looked terrible today, or Ronald Jones had a breakaway run today, or, he got hit 3 times behind the line of scrimmage, or the O-line got beat up by the D-line, or whatever. Sir, you want to be encouraged, but and it's important. All those things are important, but at the end of the day, don't take them as gospel, because it's day to day, and you can have a good day, just like anybody at work, anybody at home, anybody doing anything. One day you can be really good at it. The next day, maybe it doesn't work out so well. So don't get too worked up with the day-to-day and moment-to-moment reports out of training camp. We're not going to know what anything is really is until we get going and we see some live fire.
Did you almost have a Freudian Arian slip and call it training crap for a second there?
Yeah, crap in your pants, I guess, is on my mind. Maybe.
Let's talk about what you saw in the first weekend of Camp Arians, part one. Anything, and I don't want to be a hypocrite because we're not wanting to get too high or too low, but, what did you kind of take away from the first weekend of training camp?
Well, you'll notice what I just said is don't get too worked up on moment-to-moment, day-to-day reports of what you're seeing at camp. If you start to see some consistencies, though, well, then you can probably say that, okay, maybe this is an issue, or maybe this is really a good thing. For example, look, you and I both believe that Jameis Winston, and I don't know anybody who can look in the mirror and be honest with themselves, could look at what Jameis Winston did on day one and say that was good. I think he must have thrown at least a dozen interceptions. He looked terrible. He was throwing the ball well, just not to the right people. But he came back on Saturday and came back on Sunday, and I thought he looked special. I really thought he looked good. Now, what have I seen so far that I'm excited about? Speed on defense. This is something that showed up a little bit when they were in shorts, but it really showed up when they put on the pads for the first time and through this week, through today. They look good on defense, and the speed coming off the front seven really looks good. And what makes them look so good is the fact that blitzes are coming from everywhere. I mean, we saw corner blitzes, safety blitzes. Levante David is spending a lot of time in the backfield, Mike. It was really exciting to see him not hanging back 7, 12, 14 yards in the secondary, but actually in the backfield taking runners down. So that's the thing that I saw that I liked the most. What have I seen so far that I like the least? Well, in order for the defense to be that dominant, something's not going well offensively up front. Mm-hmm. And the thing I've seen consistently is, much like Bruce Arians said, the offensive line kind of not playing to the level it needs to play at. Now, look, that's kind of normal for training camp. It kind of goes that way, where the O-line's kind of got to get a little bit used to it, like get accustomed to the speed. It's much easier for the D-line to just pin its ears back and go. The O-line's got a little bit more orchestration that's got to go on. So we'll see how it goes. But I haven't been too impressed with the play of the O-line. But boy, oh boy, the D-line sure looks good. And I think it's an indication, to be honest, I really do. I think this 3-4 scheme with the speed they have has the opportunity here to really do something different. And I think they can do it against a variety of opponents, because it's going to be hard to tell where these blitzes are coming from. I think it's going to take a real sharp quarterback, and there's a few of them in this division, obviously, but it's going to take a real sharp quarterback to figure things out and avoid plays getting blown up the way this D front has looked through the first 3 days of camp.
Boy, I'd like to have Quan Alexander and Kendall Beckwith, a healthy addition of both those guys,
yeah.
And the style they're playing. That'd be a little more entertaining too. It's funny, we don't rehearse this podcast, but one of the sound bites that we picked from Bruce Arians' press conference talked about what Roy Cummings just talked about, speed on defense. He was asked about that. Here's what the head coach had to say.
That's what we built this defense on, and when we have it, it's right across the board. They can all run. They're high motor guys, and we're going to have a lot of fun on defense.
I'm hearing a lot of chirping from the defense, especially in the secondary. A lot of the young guys talking about really wanting to win each and every day. You know how it is. Social media, long off season. They heard things about how bad that defense was a year ago. It seems like a little chip on their shoulder coming back for this
I think
game.
there's a chip on their shoulder. Number one, I think they know that they're better than what they showed a year ago. At least the guys who were still around from last year. Guys, again, like Levante David, maybe even Carl Nassib, some of those guys. But I think there's a new energy with the defense, and I think it stems from the fact that this is going to be an attacking defense. They are the front seven for sure, and the occasional cornerback and safety, by the way, are going to attack the line of scrimmage. As a football player, you love to hear that. That gives you a little bit of a boost, because you're thinking, hey man, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be looking for the ball carrier. I'm going to attack somebody. I'm going to take somebody down. I'm going to be playing good, hard football. It's different than what we've seen of late with the Bucs, which is a different scheme where it's kind of like sit back 7, 8 yards, let a guy catch the ball, and just don't let big plays happen. This team may end up giving up some more big plays than we're accustomed to seeing, although I think we've become accustomed to seeing them give up a lot of big plays. But the difference is you give up big plays when you take chances, but I think this is going to be a defense that takes chances. It's going to take advantage of its speed and its athleticism, and that, again, as Bruce Arians said, is what this defense is built on. It's built on speed, athleticism, and attacking the line of scrimmage. And I think that, and attacking the ball carrier or the quarterback, and I think that's what's got this defense energized and why it's probably playing at the level it is right now, at least, again, in camp, because I think they're just all excited about what's different and the fact that they're going after people instead of waiting for them to come to them.
What's your gut on Jason Pierre-Paul? When do you think JPP is coming back? I mean, it's really anybody's guess right now.
Yeah, Bruce Arians said the doctors say October, so look for October. To me, that means November. The first thing I think you can probably guess or start before anybody makes a guess, rather, is let's see when he's been cleared to begin football activities, and then you can start to gauge when do you think he's going to have a chance to get on the field and play, and that's barring setbacks. So my feeling is I think he's got a chance to play because I think he wants to play a lot, and my guess is that you're looking at probably late October, early to mid-November, and he'll probably go out there. But again, how effective is he going to be? That's hard to know.
Boy, that is the last thing this football team needed, besides maybe Jameis Winston going down, is Jason Pierre-Paul, who was such a highlight for this team a year ago defensively. All right, we're talking defense. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball. Ronald Jones, such a pivotal part of this football team if he can step up. I mean, he'd be such a 1-2 punch with Peyton Barber, a nice compliment to him, and that's exactly what they envisioned when they drafted him a year ago. Here's what Bruce Arians had to say, because if you read all the social media and you watch practice, it's been kind of an up and down ride, and only the first 4 days of practice for Rojo. Here's what Arians had to say.
I'd like for him to have more opportunities. The two he had opportunities, he busted, and he dropped an easy touchdown, just squeezing it too hard. But he's pressed on a little bit because he really wants to be good, so I like that.
Arians honest and trying to be complimentary at the same time. I had a one-on-one with Ronald Jones we're going to have in just a second. You can also check it out visually on our weekly video updates we have here on pewterpirates.com. Roy and I break down the hot topics, and we also get you a nice pivotal player every week we go one-on-one with. So we give you kind of the kind of content you're not going to have in any other website in terms of video content and podcast, the whole complement here. But, I thought, he kind of massaged Ronald Jones a little bit, called him out, but yet trying to kind of build his confidence there too.
Well, what he was saying about it was interesting. The whole comment about the linemen crapping their pants came in response to questions about Ronald Jones. It was kind of an extension of that answer that we just heard, because he was asked about Ronald Jones, and what he said was, I'd like to see him get a few more opportunities. What he basically was saying was calling out the offensive line, saying that these guys got to give him a hole. Look, this is a guy who is there are different kinds of running backs in the NFL. Some guys can make their own yards. They're really good making yards after contact, meaning yards after they've been touched at the line of scrimmage or behind the line, or 3 yards beyond the line, that kind of thing. They can power their way for extra yards after contact. That's not Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones needs a hole and an opportunity to get to the second level and turn on the boosters. He's a home run hitter. That's what we saw a couple of times yesterday. We just didn't see much of it, again, because the offensive line, in essence, crapped their pants. And it's become the theme of this podcast as well as training camp so far. But that's kind of what he's referring to. If the offensive line gives Ronald Jones an opportunity, I think he can be an impact player. I still believe in Ronald Jones. I know a lot of people are laughing at him. They chortle when his name is mentioned. They laugh and everything, all based on the fact that this kid had a miserable rookie season. And gee, I don't know. Since when is it the norm that people go out and play at a Pro Bowl caliber in their rookie season? Doesn't happen, guys. More people play like Ronald Jones than they do like rookies of the year. Because when you look at it at the end of the season, you usually got about 3 players that are in the race for rookie of the year, and one of them is probably way ahead of the other 2. So Ronald Jones in his season as a rookie last year is more the norm than it is the anomaly. And I just think, he needs a little bit of he needs a little help from his offensive line, and then beyond that, a little help from some wide receivers and tight ends on the second level in order to be what the Bucs need him to be. So I think he's got a chance to be something special. He just needs a little bit of help, and I think we've seen this week already through training camp, a couple of practices here in pads, that he does have that ability to break it and break it for long gains if he can just get past the line of scrimmage.
We should have talked about this beforehand. This crap their pants motif has taken on a life of its own. Every time we should said it, we should have Justin Thomas do like a bell, like a crap their pants meter. And we go back and do that. No, we can't do that. When you talk about Ronald Jones, a lot of rookies struggle. You mentioned that. But a lot of rookies who struggle kind of hide from the media. They don't answer the questions. What I like about Ronald Jones is every time I've approached him, dating back to last year, and of course in this interview we have coming up here, he hasn't hid from any of the criticism. He's accepted it and knows he has to get better. Here are portions of my one-on-one with Ronald Jones. You can see the full interview on our video recap on pewterpirates.com. But here were kind of the highlights of my one-on-one with Ronald Jones after the first couple of days of camp.
I know it was a tough rookie year at times, but how much of a difference does a year make for you?
I think a year makes a lot of difference for me, especially, after last season, I had to put in the work off season to prove everybody, that I'm really the player I'm supposed to be. So to be back and be out here, finally getting the opportunity, it feels good.
What was the biggest obstacle for you in your rookie season, if you look back?
I'd probably say the biggest obstacle was probably adjusting to the NFL life, the speed of the game, just the playbook, just the commitment and dedication you got to put in, day in and day out. You can't take shortcuts. So just watching the older guys hanging around them, I'm trying to find my own.
Do you have a chip on your shoulder, or is it just confidence that you've done it before, you've done it in college on a big stage, or what's your mindset entering this camp now?
I say a little bit of both. I still got to prove myself, prove my value in this league, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
Last question I have, Bruce Arians kind of brings a little different demeanor as the head coach, no music at practice. Yeah. How has practice been, and how do you like playing for a coach who is really committed to the running game?
Yeah, I definitely like playing for a coach who's committed to the running game. Back in college I was, fed the ball a lot, so, getting back to that old school type of football is my kind of stuff. So.
That's what we try to give you here on pewterpirates.com and our podcast, A Few Extra Bucs. So really take you inside the mind of pivotal players in Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My takeaway from that, I agree with you, partner. He's getting used to the speed of the game, but he enters year number 2 with a chip on his shoulder, and he's trying to get his confidence back. I think, as you kind of mentioned earlier, he gets that one breakaway run, maybe a couple of them. He settles down mentally and becomes the player that we know he can be because he has the talent. I just think when you're young, when you're 21, 22, sometimes 20 years old in the NFL, man, you're young and you got a lot of pressure on you and you need to kind of settle down mentally. And I think that's what Ronald Jones needs to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be important for him to have some success in training camp workouts, then in the preseason, in order to be the guy that everybody expects him to be. He's going to have that success. I'll tell you one thing, though. He's determined. I talked to him again the other day after you talked to him, Mike, and I talked to him a couple days later, and he is absolutely determined to prove that he was that he's not the player that he should look that he was last year. That he's worthy of the number 2. The second round pick that was used to get him, that he's worthy of a roster spot, worthy of regular carries in this offense. He is absolutely determined. I mean, he's put on weight, muscle. He knows that he has to have stronger leg power to break through tackles and things like that. He talked to a lot of people in the offseason about, how to bounce back from this kind of a rookie disappointment. He's determined, man. And I just think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I may be wrong, and if I am, I'll admit it. 14, 15 weeks into the season. But right now, I just think I know he's got the ability. I think he's going to break out, and I think people are going to be surprised.
Before we get to our highly entertaining final segment, you said on our video wrap on pewterpirates.com, you think Rojo has the ability to get maybe 800 yards for this team on the ground this year?
Well, I think he can. Look, this is a guy, he's a different kind of player than Peyton Barber, who's going to probably be the primary back. Bruce Arians likes guys who can pound it, get yards on their own. That's what Peyton Barber does. But you need a guy as well who can give you a change of pace. When that defense is tired, worn out from trying to stop guys who can gain extra yards, you need somebody who can just get through a hole quickly and take it to the next level and run past everybody else. That's what Ronald Jones does. Again, cannot emphasize enough how important it is for a runner like Ronald Jones to have the opening to get through to the second level. And if he gets that opening, he's going to make some impact plays for this team. And I think the more impact plays he makes, the sooner he does it, the more opportunities he's going to get. I think there's going to be almost a 50-50 sharing of the carries here between these two. Because if one isn't going that well, I think they're going to lean on the other. I think they like the fact that they've got kind of a thunder and lightning type setup here. We'll see if it works out that way. But I think they're both going to get a lot of opportunities. And look, the Bucs are going to run the ball. Bruce Arians has said it. They absolutely need to be a run-first team in order to set up those play-action passes down the field. They're going to pound it, man. They're going to lose trying.
Well, Ronald Jones is excited about that, as you heard in our one-on-one interview with him. You know what? We covered offense. We covered defense. The kickers look really good, but you know what? It's way too early to give you a kicking update. Let's have those guys do it in the games. Right now, Justin, you know what time it is. More likely, baby. 3 hypotheticals. Roy, do you agree too early for a kicking update? I mean, they look good so far, but let's give it. Let's let a couple weeks breathe into camp here.
I agree to a point. The only difference is back when Roberto Aguayo missed from day one.
Did he really?
Roberto Aguayo was wide right and wide left all day, every day from day one. The fact that
did he crap his pants from day one?
Oh, he did. He crapped his pants. But the fact that Matt Gay came out on his first big day and hit 10 for 10, including a 52 and 57 yarder, that's newsworthy. And the fact that Cairo Santos came out the next day and said, "Yeah, pal, how about this?" and did the same thing,
nice,
including finishing with a 52 and 57 yarder, tells you that, you know what, too soon to come out and say it, but maybe, just maybe, the Bucs have solved that kicking problem. We'll see.
Oh, the Matt Bryant hex could be over. All right, more likely, we mentioned 3 hypotheticals. We talked about Rojo, Ronald Jones. We're going to bring back producer Justin Thomas. We always let him go first because he cheats off Roy's paper all the time. More likely, guys, who is more important to the Bucs' success? Who do they need more to be successful, Ronald Jones or Noah Spence?
I'm going first.
Yes.
I'm going to go with Ronald Jones. Y'all said it earlier in the podcast, but Bruce Arians loves using the run game to have everything else develop behind that. And I think he also needs to prove himself this year after a disappointing rookie season. I think Ronald Jones.
That would be huge for the offense. Roy Cummings, we talked about JPP not being around maybe till November. I know the defense has a lot of speed, but boy, they need a lot of pressure on the quarterback, especially with JPP out. Who do the Bucs need more to step up this season, Ronald Jones or Noah Spence?
I'm going to agree with Justin on this one. I'm going to cheat off of his paper, and I'm going to say Ronald Jones, and for some of the same reasons. Obviously, as I said before, Bruce Arians, you need to have a dominant running game in the NFL in these days in order to really be successful. And the Bucs are going to lean on that running game a lot. They need to do it. Look, Peyton Barber can wear some teams out over time, but it's going to take 3+ quarters for him to do it. I think he's not that powerful a back that he's not one of those guys that you say, "Oh my God, here he comes again." He's decent in yards after contact. They need somebody who can break one off at the run, break one off in the running game for him, and that's what Ronald Jones can do. I think he's the more important player.
Yeah, I went one-on-one with Vita Vea recently, too. We're going to have that in our video wrap next week on pewterpirates.com. He's a whole different guy than a year ago. And Ndamukong Suh is here, but boy, JPP is such a huge loss. It would be great for Noah Spence to step it up. I feel like the common ground here, both these guys are second-round picks. This is why the Bucs are kind of in this predicament, because they're not getting what they should get out of these high draft picks. Noah Spence and Rojo, I know it's only his second year, but I have to agree with you. And, Jameis Winston really hasn't had a running game. He had a little Doug Martin, but he hasn't had that consistent running game. And I think that has hurt him along with the inconsistencies at offensive line. If Jameis Winston can get the running game consistently, he'll be a better quarterback. And that's why I say Ronald Jones as well. All right, more likely number 2. Justin, you go first. Who do we more likely want to zip it and just basically go away and be quiet for a while more? Jalen Ramsey or Odell Beckham? Jalen Ramsey pulls up, and the guy's a great player, but just never shuts up. And comes out of the armored vehicle, wants to get paid this season. I give him creative points, but he just never shuts up. And then you got Odell Beckham just talking about I don't get respect. Odell, you get a ton of respect. You just need to grow the hell up. I'm not going to get on my take in just a second, but Justin Thomas, who needs to zip it more, Jalen Ramsey or Odell Beckham?
I thought you were going to break into a Rodney Dangerfield impersonation for a second.
Yeah. He's the last guy that should be saying that, but anyway.
It's tough. I've always liked Odell. He does tend to talk too much. I think sometimes he's right. Sometimes he, is in the wrong when he does it. I don't know. And then you got Jalen Ramsey, like you were saying. That's a tough one. How about both of them?
No, you got to pick one.
I got to pick one?
Yeah, that's the rule, baby.
All right. I could do with Odell not saying anything for a while.
Okay. Roy, you going to cheat off the paper, or are you going to have a mind of your own?
No, I'm going to go with Jalen Ramsey in this one because I don't think Jalen Ramsey has I just don't think he's got the resume to back up what he's saying. I agree he's a hell of a player, top-level cornerback. But, you're also playing for a team that, kind of caught lightning in a bottle a couple of years ago and played tremendously, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, but then kind of fell back down to earth last year. If you put two of those kind of seasons together and you go to the playoffs 2 years in a row, okay, maybe you got a little bit of room to run your mouth a little bit. But you know what? Just you're in Jacksonville, man. Unfortunately, that's about the only way anybody's going to take notice of Jacksonville is if somebody's popping off there. But I'm not a fan of it, so I'm going to say Jalen Ramsey in this one.
A Jacksonville dagger from Roy Cummings. And, the people in Jacksonville could say, hey, Tampa, how many times have you been in the playoffs? At least we have one. But,
yeah.
I'm with you, though. I will disagree with you guys on this, though. I wish Odell Beckham, I think he's a hell of a player. And he had everything going for him. I mean, he went to a market that was perfect. I mean, he went to New York. He was basking in that. He was making the splash plays. And, I remember covering a game. Watching him in pregame warmups is probably akin to watching Mark McGwire take batting practice. I mean, the guy's just making catches left and right. He's an exciting player. But between attacking nets to constantly attacking his quarterback, I love Baker Mayfield. I can't wait for Baker Mayfield to grab his face mask on the sideline, just tell him to shut the hell up, because that's going to happen this season. I don't know if it's going to be sooner or later, but it's going to happen. But I love what Eli Manning, who's always kind of calm, and they asked Eli Manning about this, and he just said kind of whatever, but then kind of throws in the parting shot, guys.
Yeah.
I won a few games before he got here. I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I love that too.
Zip it, Odell Beckham. Jalen Ramsey, at least you get creative points, and at least you're consistently good. But the no respect card, I get tired of that, especially from guys who get a ton of respect. All right, finally, if you listen to this podcast, more likely number 3 is always kind of a pop culture thing. And if you really listen to this podcast, and we appreciate it all the way through, you know that I always get beat up by this question. Elton John beat Billy Joel. Elton John has beaten everybody in terms of if I put any other artist against Elton John. I voted for Billy Joel. Justin and Roy did. All right, I'm bringing a new contender to the table. I think Stevie Wonder was almost a tie with Elton John. Nobody's beaten Elton John yet. I'm not going to throw any Beatles because Roy's a big Beatles guy. That's not fair. But Lionel Richie was in town in Tampa. I saw him in Vegas a couple years ago. I'm a big Commodores guy. You got to remember the whole body of work, Commodores and solo stuff. More likely Lionel Richie or Elton John, Justin Thomas.
Elton John.
Still undefeated.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think Roy and I both picked Stevie Wonder when you.
Oh, you did?
I think so. Roy, didn't you pick Stevie Wonder too?
Is better than Elton John? Yeah, I might have taken. I mean, that's hard. That's a hard call.
Yeah, we both were.
I mean, I couldn't argue with anybody who would say it. I can't remember exactly where I fell on that one, but thinking of it right now, I mean, I certainly can't argue. I just might take Stevie Wonder in that race. Yeah.
Well,
right.
While that one was tough to determine, I can tell you, no hesitation, Elton John. I like a couple Lionel Richie songs, but I mean, to me, it's no competition.
Wow. I got a feeling, Roy always surprises me, especially with his Bachelor takes and some of the, we go back and forth on Gerald McCoy forever. But Roy Cummings, what do you think?
It's Elton John. For sure. Look, I like Lionel Richie. He did some good work in the '80s. Good for him. But no, he's not Elton John, man. He's a level below. Stevie Wonder's on the same level, but unfortunately, Lionel Richie's a level below Elton John.
All right, let me throw this at you, Roy. Gerald McCoy or Elton John?
If I'm looking for a guy to rush the passer, man, I'm taking McCoy every day.
All right, I don't hate Elton John. I just like Billy Joel and Stevie Wonder a lot more. I'm going to take Lionel Richie over Elton John, my friends. How about that?
Ouch.
I love.
Are you just doing this to be contrarian?
No, I'm not because you know what? I could have been contrarian with Noah Spence. I could have been contrarian with Jalen Ramsey a little bit. I like Elton John. I don't love him. I love Lionel Richie. Like I love the Commodores. I love a lot of his solo stuff. I think he's fantastic. So I'm just going to say I love Lionel Richie. How about that?
Okay. All right.
Hey, you say me, baby. Say it.
All right, pal.
I can't remember any of the words. Well, listen, Roy, you got anything else for me? We're going to keep this going throughout training camp, huh?
Yeah, man. Let's do it. I think it's going to be fun for sure.
All right. Justin Thomas, any parting shots, any parting words of wisdom here?
I'm starting to think that Roy and I would be best friends.
I
seem to agree on almost everything.
I think Roy and I are best friends, and we agree on. I think Roy and I agree probably 70-80% of everything. Almost.
That's true. We do.
You know?
We mostly agree. Just have slightly different taste in music. Slightly different. The issue is, but here's the thing: there's no wrong answer in music.
Right.
There's no. That's what to me. That's always been the greatest thing about music. When you tell somebody you like something in terms, what kind of music style you like, they can't criticize you. It's like ice cream.
Yeah.
It's whatever you like. There's no wrong answer.
I'm with you, my friend. And you know what? We need to disagree. It would be a terrible, terrible podcast.
You're right about that.
So I embrace the disagreement. I embrace the agreement, and I embrace Lionel Richie over Elton John. But guys, great job. Remember, you can catch us on all the platforms: iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Google. We're out there. We're getting more subscribers. We appreciate those, especially those who hang around for more likely all the way to the end here. But we're with you throughout training camp. We'll extend it to the regular season. But check us out on pewterpirates.com for the video updates. And we'll always put our podcasts up there as well. We'll have Vita Vea next time around. But for all you Buccaneer fans who logged on, we appreciate it greatly. And we'll talk to you next week.